You probably know Scott Adams, right? The Dilbert guy. He was one of the most famous cartoonists on the planet. But his final message, well, it wasn't a comic strip. It was this really carefully planned statement, something that was only supposed to be read after he was gone. So what was it? What did he really want the world to know?
Just imagine reading this. If you are reading this, things did not go well for me. Wow, those are the actual words Scott Adams left for all of us. Such a chillingly direct opening, isn't it? He wrote it in advance, and it just pulls you right into this story that, well, he wasn't around to tell himself anymore.
So yeah, the news of his death was announced recently, and he left behind this incredible legacy, the whole world of cubicle humor he created with Dilbert. But he also left behind this one last, really carefully crafted message.
And the way it all became official, his former wife, Shelley Miles, actually confirmed it during a live stream. She was the one who read his final statement out loud to everyone. It was a really somber end to what had been a very public and, frankly, a very tough battle with cancer for Adams.
And he was only 68 years old. He passed away at his home in Pleasanton, California, while he was in hospice care.
Okay, so to really get his final message, you've got to understand what was going on in his last few months. See, his health struggle wasn't private at all. He was really open about it. And that led to this whole series of very public and pretty unusual events.
And things escalated really, really quickly. He first announced his diagnosis back in May, but by November, the situation was already getting dire. That's when he posted this public plea for help, saying he was declining fast. And all of that led to the sad confirmation of his passing this past Tuesday.
Now this is where things get really fascinating. Who he reached out to for help. In a public post on X, Adams appealed directly to former President Donald Trump. He was asking for help to get his healthcare provider to schedule his treatment. This, he said, would give him a fighting chance.
And the response? It was incredibly fast. Over on his platform Truth Social, Donald Trump replied with just 2 words, "On it." I mean, think about that. This remarkable, very public exchange between a famous cartoonist and a former president, it just captured everyone's attention. It really highlighted how desperate Adams was, and also Trump's very direct way of engaging.
So after the news of Adams' death came out, Trump posted a tribute. He called him a fantastic guy who bravely fought his illness. And that message really was the final chapter in that very public interaction between the two of them.
All right, so let's move on. Because beyond all the public health pleas and the interactions with politicians, Adams had prepared one final thing. This last statement, this was the core of what he really wanted to leave behind.
His final statement wasn't some list of his accomplishments or anything like that. Nope. Instead, he just reflected on his life, which he called amazing. And he used that feeling, that perspective, as the foundation for a really simple but profound request he had for all of us. So he wrote, "I had an amazing life. I gave it everything I had." And from that place, that sense of gratitude, he made his one big ask. He said, "If you got any benefits from my work, I'm asking you to pay it forward as best you can." So if you break it all down, his final message really stands on these 4 pillars. First, he acknowledges his own amazing full life. Then, he asks all of us to pay it forward. He also expresses his love for everyone. And finally, he gives this crystal clear definition of the legacy he actually wanted.
And at the end of the day, it all boils down to this simple, 2-word directive: be useful. I mean, after a whole lifetime of creating and writing and commenting on the world, that was the legacy he wanted. Not to be remembered as some famous artist, but just as someone who was useful to other people.
So in the end, Scott Adams didn't ask us to remember him as a cartoonist or a commentator. No, he wanted his legacy to be an action. He left us with this final directive that's also, when you think about it, a question for every single one of us. In your own life, what does it really mean to be useful?